Hi everybody, Leslie here, and today I'm talking about glitter. I know glitter's not great for the environment. All of my glitter is at least 10 years old. I've been trying to come up with ways to use it up. I thought I would show you lots of different ways that you can encapsulate your glitter. You can get different effects in lots of different ways. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everybody in these cards. The one that's obviously missing from here is using glitter in shaker cards. I'm not going to do that today, but I will link one of my spinning puzzle card series that uses glitter in a spinning version of a shaker card, just because it's another way that you can use up glitter. The next way is really obvious, is to use some sort of double-sided tape. I've done a little sample here. These are all different double-sided tape. This is like a Sticks 2 brand, thick one at the bottom, which actually worked one of the best. That's pound shop stuff that came like 4 rolls for £1 or something like that. This thin one, this one worked really well. I've got a couple of different red liner tapes. If any of you watched some of my use your stuff videos, use your craft stash, because some sticky things kind of go out of date. So this one, where it looks really yellow and it hasn't stuck very well, is this one, which is a super thin red liner tape that I've had for years, but I think the stick on it's going, and you can see it looks like it's got too hot, too cold, who knows, but it's not very sticky anymore for super sticky. This one's a better example, and that's the top one. So any sort of double-sided tape you can use to encapsulate your glitter. And the blue glitter that I'm using throughout is actually this Art Glitter Royal Opaque. So it's an opaque glitter rather than a see-through one. So if you see this blue glitter, that's what that one is. One quick example of how you could use this idea to make a card. All I've done here is pop tape straight onto my card blank. I'm using 5-inch square card blanks, pop a load of lines on there. I was going to do them all even, and then I went wrong somewhere along the line, so they're not even, but I didn't think that mattered too much. So my advice to you, if you're working with glitter, is have a tray or something that stops it spreading out over your whole desktop while you're working, and also have some copy paper, notepad paper, whatever you've got, so that you can catch all your glitter to put it back in your pots. So I thought I'd use up this, it's really static, big chunky glitter. So I've taken off the 2 outside ones, and to start with I'm going to go for red. Best thing to do is just burnish it in with your finger. If you can't stick touching it, use like a bone folder or something of that sort. So it's really static, it sticks to everything. So I've just got ready a paintbrush just to try and get as much of it off as I can before I pull my next strip off. My other tip is to have some of this stuff. This is Swiffer cloth. So this is the stuff that I use on my laminate floors. It sticks to a mop head type thing. I think you'll know what I mean by a Swiffer cloth. And it's supposed to catch the dust, but as you can see, I cut them up into smaller pieces. I think this is about 1/4 of a sheet. And this goes on and on and on, and you can use it and use it and use it. So you'll see it doesn't come back off this easily. So you can keep using the same piece over and over and over again. And I'm just going to repeat that for all the other colours. I've got all my glitter on there, and now I just need to give it a good clean off. So I'm just using the same Swiffer I've been using all along. So we've got nice rainbow stripes on our card, and I just thought we'd finish it off with a little black happy birthday in the middle. So this is just cut from one of my old favourite dies. This is a die that came from the Works. It's their own brand. It's just a generic happy birthday. Obviously, if you're sticking on top of glitter, you're going to need a wet glue probably. If you're not a fan of rainbow, you could do this in 1 or 2 colours or just 1 colour. Really simple glittery sparkly card. And yeah, if you did it in maybe the blue and the purple or a blue and a green, you can make it more masculine, but rainbow's always fun. You don't have to do that many lines. You could use it if you were doing 2 panels. You could just run a line of double-sided tape as like the border between the two. So there's all sorts of ways you could just use any sort of double-sided tape with your glitter. So that's one way. So this was just using tape, and you can step it up by using something like thin stick it double-sided, and I keep all the little scraps, and then if I want to cut out some letters, for example, I will stick this onto my card, die cut it from the top so it's the right way round, and then you can peel off the top and put glitter on it. And because this is a much finer glitter, this is the art glitter that I'm using here, much finer than the one I've just used on that stripy card, it covers it really well and it encapsulates it really well, so this doesn't rub off anymore. So that's just using scraps of glitter, scraps of my stick it. You can also go a bit further and use it on word dies. Now again, this you can see quite clearly, this is the really nice fine glitter and this is the more chunky glitter. So this was just using again the same stick it onto, it was just white card, and I used the same rainbow glitter. That's just another way to do it. So that's the Spellbinders die that came with a magazine recently. I think it was Simply Cards and Papercraft, but the fine glitters do actually work better. That's just stepping it up using a double-sided, but you could do the same thing if you've got a wide double-sided tape like this, if it fits behind your die cut, or you can butt them up to each other. So you don't need to have this, it just makes life easier. And like I say, I keep all my small scraps from when I'm doing other techniques. The other thing that I've done with that stick it in the past is use it on a whole sheet. These are sliding puzzle cards. I'll link to the video where I made these. On my black piece of card, I put a whole sheet of stick it, and then I stuck my die cut onto it. So this is a white glitter card that came with the glitter on it on top. And then I dumped, it's not an opaque glitter, it's one of the art glitter ones, but it's one that's like a clear one. So when you put it on different colours, it shows up differently. Then I cut it up and made it into a sliding puzzle. Same thing with this one. This wasn't using stick it, this was using it was a much thicker double-sided sheet that I had, and this was just showing you could drop them in from the top rather than from the sides. So this was just a variation on this one. You can do full sheets and infill in between things like die cuts. This is a really, really fine glitter, and I've already got some of this out on my mat. And I was going to show you a couple of ways. So these are all using hot glue. And I thought I'd also show you with wax. So I'm just popping, I put 2 blues and 1 white in my little spoon. And we'll leave that melting while we're playing with the hot glue gun. So my hot glue gun's already hot, it's got glue in it, and I've already got a little puddle of glitter because I've already been having a play. Now these are seals that don't have anything on, so I showed these in my last What Did I Get video. So this is a blank circle seal and this is a blank square seal, and these work perfectly well with hot glue. So if you've not got wax but you've got some sort of hot glue gun, you can have a play like this. And all I did to do these is I sort of dip my wax seal in, and I've managed to get glue on it, and then pop it on. And if you don't sprinkle glitter on top, you'll get a slightly different effect from if you put glitter on, if you leave the glitter on the bottom like this. So this one, I sprinkled glitter on the top rather than just sort of having it underneath. So this one's super, super glittery, and that's really fun. Whereas the one that I've just done is going to be more like this. So this one I didn't sprinkle any glitter on top. So hopefully you can see the difference. And these are both just using hot glue. Now I actually had some really old yellowed hot glue, and you can see it was really yellow, but you can't tell once all that glitter's on there. Whereas this was with some nice new, much clearer. And so it doesn't take that long to dry. I'm just working on a heat-proof mat, and I've got a glass mat underneath that is cold, so it sets quite quickly. So that's the one that's more like this. So that's the effect you get with clear hot glue and just dropping it into a puddle. So I've just been pushing my glitter, which when I popped it onto that was what happened. But this doesn't just work with blank seals. You can do this. Oh, just watching that I don't overheat my wax. You can do this with if you've got seals that have got a pattern on them. So this is just a star seal. I think this one's from Violet Studios. I've had this one for quite a few years. And again, just drop that on there. Leave it a few seconds to cool down. And I'm just going to do a similar thing with my wax. And I've not mixed them together. I'm just going to let it swirl as I pour. And we'll see what effect we get with this. I'm hoping I've got enough in there. I'll pop that back in because I'll show you something else we can do. So just, should have had my teaspoon ready so I didn't put so much out. So should we just go for a plain one? I think I probably let my wax cool a little bit too much, but we'll see. Leave that one to set for a second. I think because I've got my glass mat underneath, it's cooling really quickly. But so hopefully you can see. There we go. If I get the light to catch it, you can see there's a nice little star in there, which you can see better in real life, I think, than you can on camera. So that's without throwing too much glitter on it, but you can see it's encapsulated from the back there. And let's see, I think this one, I think I waited a bit too long because I left the lid on my glitter. So some of this is going to scrape back off because it didn't sink in, but some of it's going to be encapsulated in there. So that's really fun. So if you like a mixed media effect and you don't necessarily need it to be super duper spread out accurate, there's another way. You can do it with wax as well. And I will show you on, this was a different colour wax with a different colour glitter. You can see I'm covered in glitter, but so that was like a dark wax with gold in it, and that was just using one of my flat seals. And this one, I just had a tiny bit of pink left in my spoon, and this was just what I popped out, and you can see there's some gold glitter in there, so that was just a tiny bit I had left over. And I'm thinking we could do something similar with this. Let's push it all into a pile and see if we can get this to do something similar. And when you drop the wax out into a pile of glitter, it kind of beads up. I don't know if you can see, I'm not zoomed in very much, but it kind of sucks itself back up and kind of beads up. I don't know if there was enough there. And something else you can do if you don't like what you've done, you can actually, even with the glitter in it, I've just torn that up into smaller pieces again. I'm just popping it back in, and if your glitter melts, it doesn't matter, it's encapsulated in the... I've not found a glitter that melts yet, by the way. Hopefully you can see in my little spoon, that glitter's still in there and melting. And let's see if I can show you how to make some little drips. There we go. I'm just making literally little blobs, and there's already some glitter in it, but there's already the glitter on my mat, and it kind of sucks it up at the edges. It's really hard to explain, but they'll only take a few seconds to dry, and it kind of sucks the glitter up around the edges as well. It's quite a fun effect. So a little bit like you can make drops with Nuvo or Glossy accents. They make little blobs as well. So that's using all those little extra bits of wax that you've got left. The same goes if you've got tiny drips off your glue gun, you can have a go. So there wasn't much wastage, most of it ended up in these little blobs. So some of these were actually my hot glue rejects, because like this one I tried to pull it up before it set. It worked, but I ruined it, and this one I didn't have enough. So I'm going to have a go, and I'm just going to get my pokey tool to hold them, to see if I can remelt these with my heat gun, because this is hot glue rather than wax, and I'm going to see if I can remelt it and use one of my seals to redo them at all. Just so you can see, the seals come off perfectly well. I've not had an issue yet. So once they've cooled, they just peel back up off the mat. So that was with the square. Now, I'm not great at cutting things out, but I think I could do some nice sort of teardrop shapes. So this was why I wanted some plain, the flat seals. So I could make these into some sort of kind of leaf shape. I could remelt these, do it again and cut some more. I did the same thing with this little stamp. This one came from the Works in the UK some time ago, I admit, but it was £3 for a whole alphabet. So it's a 26 pack and it's just an uppercase alphabet. So it was a really inexpensive. So I thought, well, if I ruin this, it's not the end of the world. And both my daughter's names start with an A, so I was playing with the letter A. I did this in exactly the same way. I melted my hot glue onto my mat. I actually did sprinkle a little bit of glitter on the top, and then I just pushed my stamp into it and let it cool down. I actually managed to cut out the little letter A as well, so that one I cut it to the shape of the stamp. Now, I've not tried this yet with wax, but I think it would work as well. So if you've got rubber stamps are always heat proof. You can use them with embossing powders and things. They're always heat proof. The clear stamps, some are heat proof, some aren't. So have a play and make sure that you know what you're using is, but maybe don't do it with your most expensive favourite stamp first. Make sure that you're not going to damage your stamps. Obviously, you could do it with any image. So tons of ways to use it up. So I thought at this point I'd show you this card. So this is Time for Tea Designs Big Birthday Wishes. The background, it's an Embossalicious one called Floral Frenzy. And I used the 6-2 double-sided, put my different coloured glitters on. And what I did was, because it was going to be mixed, anything that came off I saved, and now I've got a little tube that's just a mixed glitter. So I used my little wax sealed heart, and this is what I was showing you. You can make the little tiny embellishments. So these are little tiny wax embellishments, and they look a little bit like the Nuvo drops that you can do. So that was using 2 of our techniques that we've done so far. So the next technique I thought I'd show you was using glossy accents. Now this is a technique that has been around forever. You can die cut something out and put glossy accents on top, and then just drop your glitter onto it. Now, this is quite thick once you've done this, so it keeps some of its shape, it keeps some of its dimension. My glossy accents was actually a little bit too cold, so it didn't spread very, very well the day I was doing this, but I wanted them all nice and dry so that I could show you. So that's the difference. So this is with a double-sided. I think this is the Sticks 2 double-sided, and this is with glossy accents. You obviously get a much thicker, more intense glitter because it remains thicker on there. These butterflies are done with glossy accents. I literally put my glossy accents on, and then I just tipped a whole bundle of glitter on top, and then I actually left it to dry. So I didn't try to lift them out of the pile. I literally put my glossy accents on, and I had them sitting on separate sheets of paper, left it to dry, and then came and lifted them out. I actually left them overnight, so it was one of the last things I did before I went in for the evening. And then the mixed glitter that I showed you that I saved, this was what I did with it. So this was a happy birthday die cut. You can see I put my double-sided, see what I mean about I save all my scraps, so it was pieced together. So if there's any little bits missing, it's because my pieces didn't quite join up properly. The mixed glitter, so the 3 colours of glitter that were actually on these butterflies are the leftover glitter from doing this one. So that's glossy accents on die cut butterflies. Leave it to dry with the glitter still sitting on it. Don't try and lift them out because you'll disturb all your glossy accents. Using the same technique, I've used the same stencil with different mediums. This here at the top, this is just PVA glue. This happens to be, this is the Tonic Craft Tacky Glue, but it's just a white PVA style glue. So that's that one. And I just used a really old school glue spreader just to spread a little patch on there. The next one down, this is Tonic Nuvo crystal drops. So this is the stuff that if you leave it in little blobs, that's what these are. So these three are quite dimensional. Hopefully you can see that they stick up quite a lot. So you can leave it in little blobs, or again, use some sort of spreader if you want to spread it out thin, so you can do these sorts of effects. And if you like mixed media type things and just putting little bits here and there, little spreader, it could be a lolly stick, whatever you've got, spreading it around, you can do little patches. And if you've got some of the clearer glitters, so some of the art glitter ones aren't as opaque as this, you can get an effect on top of patterns and things as well. So this bottom one was doing a similar thing, but this is with glossy accents. And I just wanted to show you the difference with the dots. You can see that the Nuvo ones stay a lot fatter than the glossy accents ones. So I put a fair bit of glossy accents down, but some of them it sort of flattens more. I thought, well, I'll pick a stencil and I'll have a go with loads of different things. So this is a Crafter's Companion stencil, and this came with issue 132 of Creative Stamping magazine, which I think will still be available. This is one of the 2 free gifts. The other one is a big stamp plate that's got lots of kind of Easter images and flowers and things on it. All I did was use some masking just to mask off the flowers, so that I could use my stencil with different mediums. So this one is just PVA glue. So this is the same PVA glue that I used on my little sample, and I just used a really inexpensive makeup sponge, just squeezed some out, dabbed my sponge in it and dabbed it through. It's not the most perfect image. Some of it oozed under a bit. I probably had a bit too much on. Just to finish these cards off, you'll see they're all slightly different. I just went with a single big black die cut word. And I thought I could finish some of these off with some of the bits and pieces that I created with my glue and my wax. It's just something a bit different. So that's that one. If you want a clearer image, you can use any sort of effect pastes. So I've got a couple of different ones. This one is called, it's Maribou brand Create Box, and this is an acrylic effect paste. So this really is meant to be used with like acrylic paints. So it sets quite thick. So it's a bit thicker than an acrylic paint, but it's just like a white, thick acrylic paint. So hopefully you can see on my little sample, which again, I just use my little glue spreader. You can get a bit of dimension and it's not flat. You can see it's super sparkly, and there'll be a little bit come off, but it grabs it quite well. So I did exactly the same thing and put this through my stencil. Now I missed a bit of my stencil at the edge here, but I don't think that mattered too much. In comparison to that one, you can see, so this is PVA glue, this is an acrylic effect paste. So if you've not got those glitter gels, they tend to dry out in the pots quite a lot. You can rescue them, I've got a video on that around. If you've got a ton of glitter, just one tube of something like this and you'll end up with a very similar effect. So what I did was I put it through the stencil, took the stencil off, then again I just dropped my glitter on, and I did very, very gently just pat on top of it, just because you just need it to grab onto it, and it does stick into it fairly well. If you've not got lots of things like Nuvo drops, you can do something really similar with wax, and I think I might buy some clear wax to have a go at as well. This is a structure paste, so again it's designed for painting on, and this is a really thick paste. You want to press on this gently just to make sure it's grabbed onto your glitter, because otherwise it sort of sits on the surface, and it's an opaque white paste, so you want to make sure you've got it grabbed on. And again, I did exactly the same thing. Put it through my stencil, and you can see it stays super sparkly. I think this is probably the best to use with a stencil because it stays slightly dimensional, but it gave the clearest image through my stencil. So these are just bits that I cut out, and I thought they kind of mirrored the shape that was already in my stencil. And when that's dried, I'll just trim that piece off at the top. Then the last one with this design, this is much more subtle. On my sample here, I used this stamp, which is just one from a Hunky Dory set. So it's just like a paint swoosh. So this is using Versamark. So clear, whatever embossing ink you've got. I got some of my Wow clear gloss. What I did was I made a little pile on a piece of paper and then dropped my blue fine glitter. This does need to be fine glitter. It works better with finer glitter. Gave it a mix up and then used my stamp. And if I can get it to focus, you'll see. So this has now got the glitter. Hopefully you can see it's lovely and shiny and it's encapsulated. And this doesn't come off because it's all within that clear gloss embossing powder. What I did to use it with my stencil is I didn't actually use, so you could stamp any image obviously. I didn't use my Versamark ink pad, I used my Versamark pen. So this is just the same ink that's in the ink pad but in a marker pen, and it's got a thin end and a thick end. I drew through my stencil with my sticky ink pen, took the stencil off and used the same mixed embossing powder. If you mix it with a white or something, it'll work as well. It does look better in real life than I can get it to pick it up on camera, but hopefully you can see it's nice and shiny glittery, and the clear goes with the sort of slightly more subdued clear look that you get with the clear embossing powder. If you're doing Christmas cards, if you mix white embossing powder with like a silver or an iridescent glitter, it works really, really well if you want a snowy effect. I'll link a video that it's in one where I stamped snowflakes onto craft tags. This is the last one I want to show you. This embellishment is made using this same stencil, but we're using like the daisy part of it. That's in 3 different colours of glitter, which is relatively easy to do if you've got layered die cuts or if you've got layered stencils. But I'm going to show you how to do it with this basic stencil. Hopefully you can see from the back that this piece is embossed, and there's a really good reason for that. You need some double-sided. It can be double-sided sticky tape that you've got. It can be double-sided sheet. I just need a big enough piece to cover my flowers. So then you just need a piece of card, same size as what you've cut, and we're going to stick it. Now keep this piece of release paper. All I want you to do is run this through your die cut machine with whatever sandwich you would use to get an impression with a stencil. For my Sizzix, I've got my bottom platform and my rubber embossing mat, and I've got this so it's sticky side facing me, still with its backing obviously on one side, and I'm going to emboss so that it comes up through the stencil and I put a clear plate on top. This is what I've got, and it is clear enough that I can see to cut that out. You don't need to cut right up tight to it. You actually want a border around it. The reason we're cutting it out is if I left all this border on, there would be all this part that's sticky and would stick to the stencil. And while you can get it back off, it becomes very, very tricky. So this was my first attempt, and it was actually onto some pale green card, and hopefully you can see getting it back off. My card got really, really bent and ruined. So it's really hard to get it back off. It's possible, but trust me, this is easier. Using your release paper that you've saved, so this is the piece I saved, not on the shiny side, so the shiny side that we know doesn't stick to our double-sided, and then we've got like the papery side. On the papery side, you want to draw around the middles of your flowers. And if, like me, you'll get these mixed up, what I did is I put an L and an R, so this would be left and right, and I put an arrow for which way up they go. So all I did was cut these out with a little border around. You don't need to be super duper accurate because you've got the width of this piece to go at. You can cut right onto the border if you want. So that's the next bit. So we've got a little mask that fits to the centres of our flowers. So now we can get 3 colours of glitter onto this using one little mask. So you need to take the whole of this off. And then you want to line your stencil back up to your lines. And then you're going to push your double-sided sticky down quite hard onto it. And it doesn't help that I've got other bits of glitter lying around. So there we go. Our stencil is stuck. And this is why I said you want a border, because it's going to stick to it. So now everything that's showing now, obviously the glitter would stick to. So this is where these come in. So you just want to pop your little bits of your cutout release paper back into these little openings. And I'm trying not to put my head on camera, so I can't see to line it up very well. And you can see now why I put an L and an R on them, because it makes this piece, doing this, just a little bit more obvious. So now everything that's showing, and of course you can do this with any image, you just need to work out how you can do it in layers. So everything that's showing, if this is a daisy, I want to be white. Burnish it in really well. Now we want to take our centres off. So we're not taking the stencil off yet, we're just taking our little centre masks off. And I try not to rub too much over the white, just in case any is going to stick where the white is. And again, just before we go on to the next bit, just get rid of any of the excess. This is why we cut it out, because this peels off pretty easily. Whereas I found if you hadn't done that, that didn't happen. It stuck like mad if you had a much bigger area stuck to the stencil. And hopefully, if you've burnished in well, all this will come back off, the white and the yellow. Where I had the joint in my tape, in my backing sheet, I've missed a bit with the tape. But you know what? I still think that's come out pretty cool. So that is how you can use something inexpensive like a stencil with your glitters, and not just one colour, but to get loads of colours through. If I can catch the light, I'm hoping you can see how sparkly and glittery that is in real life. So the card was just using the same Embossilicious Floral Frenzy embossing folder, but I've actually used the debossed side rather than the embossed side, so it looks slightly different. And that's that same thank you die from Alter New. So thanks for watching. Hopefully there was something in here to inspire you to go and have a look in your craft stash, see what glitter you've got, what you could use up, all those different effects, things you can use on mixed media style cards, on more clean and simple style cards. There's so many different ways you can use up that glitter. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, comment. It helps us little creators. And I will see you again in another video soon. Bye for now.